amendments are going on. Okay.
We'll talk about it.
Good evening, members of council, ladies and gentlemen, staff. I see that we have quorum, and I call this public meeting under the Planning Act to order. It has been moved by Councillor Ribbiak that the agenda for the April 13th, 2000, do I read this first? No, after this. The April 13th, 2015 meeting of Committee of the Whole be adopted as circulated. So we have some business, and then I'll address everyone here.
We do have two addendums that were added after. But they are
Okay.
correspondence.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. The next item is disclosure of pecuniary interest. That is any conflicts of interest that any members of council may have. Do any members have any conflicts?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So I will read something. It's called the notice requirements regarding this meeting. So this meeting is an application for official plan amendment and an application for zoning bylaw amendment for 1022 Pelham Street. And the owner is on 4 High Street, Inc. Sovereign Asset Management is the agent. The amendments proposed will facilitate the development of a convenience store, a gas station, 1 multi-unit commercial building, and future residential development. The Planning Act requires, under Section 22(1), the council must hold at least 1 public meeting for the purpose of giving the public an opportunity to make representations in respect of the current proposed amendment to the official plan. And under Section 34(12), the council must hold at least 1 public meeting for the purpose of informing the public of a proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw. This public meeting has been called to satisfy these requirements. Notice of this meeting was provided, we're told, by prepaid first-class mail to all persons who are listed as owners in the last revised assessment roll within 120 meters of the subject property on March 17th, 2015. The notice provided information on the property and the proposed amendments to the zoning bylaw as amended and the official plan. In addition to the planning staff providing information on applications, we'll also receive any comments which any member of the public may wish to offer. There is an attendance list on the table here on the side, which we would ask all present to print their name and complete mailing address if they wish to be notified of the passage of amendments by council should this occur. If a person or body decides to file an amendment to a decision made by council in respect to the proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw and or proposed amendment to the official plan and does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the town of Pelham before the proposed amendment is adopted or refused, the Ontario Municipal Board may dismiss all or part of the appeal. In closing, I want to stress that at this point, there's been no decision made on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment or the official plan amendment, and therefore any comments received will be taken into consideration by council. We do want to hear your input, and we want to do so in a organized manner. So we will hear, that's why the agenda's been published. We're going to hear from staff to talk about the application. Then we're going to hear from the applicant, and then there'll be a time for members of the public to make presentation. And we also have received on our, as part of the agenda and on our tables, some written submissions as well. I'll remind you when this happens, but when you come up to the podium, which is where we'd ask you to make a presentation, because we are taping this, it will be put on the internet, but don't be worried. We want to make sure that we hear you, everybody hears you. And I would ask at that time that you include your name and address so that we can include that in the record as well, okay? But that will come up later after we hear from planning staff and the applicant. Thank you very much. Now I would ask Ms. Hannah to present to council and the community.
Good evening, Chair, members of council, and members of the public who are here this evening. I am going to be presenting the information for 1022 Pelham Street, zoning amendment application AM 0713, and official plan amendment application AM 1315. The purpose of the two applications is to allow for the development of a convenience store, a gas station, 1 multi-unit commercial building, and future residential development. The location is south of Welland Road, east of Pelham Street. The municipal address being 1022 Pelham Street. The legal description of the lands, concession 10, part lot 1, RP 59R, 10,892, parts 4 and 7. The subject parcel is currently vacant land. It has institutional zone land associated with Concordia Lutheran Church to its north, a commercial building zone neighborhood commercial located at the intersection of Pelham Street and Quaker Road, and several large residential lots zone residential 1 to its east, agricultural field and forested land zoned agricultural located to its south, that is outside of the urban settlement boundary, and the rear yards of single detached dwellings on lots zoned R2 152 to its west. The subject parcel has land designated as urban living area built boundary to its north and east, and land designated as open space to its south and west. I've provided a simplified subject parcel history. A more comprehensive view is provided for review in the information report. The official plan of 1974 designated the subject parcel as urban residential. In 1991, there was an OMB order. This was to rezone the property from residential development to a site-specific residential commercial zone. This 1991 order included a gas bar and station as a permitted use. In 1992, the OMB amended its decision and it removed the gas bar and station, so the gas bar and station are not a permitted use. In 2013, there was a zoning amendment and official plan amendment application that were received by the town. The zoning bylaw amendment application that was received sought approval to allow for retail uses, a fuel station, and an oil change facility. And the official plan amendment that was received sought approval to redesignate the subject parcel from urban residential to urban highway commercial. The official plan of the town came into effect in 2014, and this designated the parcel as urban highway commercial and greenfield overlay. In 2014, a design charrette was held, hosted by planning staff on April 22nd. And on November 20th, a pre-consultation meeting was held with the applicant, planning staff, both at the town, the region, and the MPCA. On January 28th, 2015, new applications were received. The rezoning application, which sought approval to rezone the lands from NC 108 to RM1, NC 108 to RC site-specific, A to RM1, and A to NC site-specific. The urban plan application sought approval to redesignate the subject parcel, a portion of it, from urban highway commercial to urban living area built boundary. In regards to provincial policies, the provincial policies direct development to settlement areas to utilize existing municipal sewage and water services, facilitate compact form, and encourage an appropriate range and mix of residential and other uses. The provincial plan policy statement notes that the subject parcel is within a settlement area. The PPS policies note that sustainable communities provide efficient development and have an appropriate range and mix of residential and other uses to meet long-term needs within settlement areas. In addition, economic development and competitiveness is to be promoted by providing for an appropriate mix and range of employment uses, having a diversified economic base, maintaining suitable sites that take into account the needs of existing and future businesses, encouraging compact and mixed-use development that incorporates compatible employment uses to support livable and resilient communities. As the parcel is within a settlement area, the Greenbelt Plan does not apply. As the parcel is outside of the Niagara Escarpment Plan area, the Niagara Escarpment Plan does not apply. In consideration of the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, it is noted that the parcel is within a built-up area. The growth plan policies encourage the development of complete communities by having a diverse mix of land uses, a range and mix of employment types, and easy access to local stores and services. It is noted that new development in designated greenfield areas will be designed and zoned to create complete communities and provide a mix of land uses to support vibrant neighborhoods. Designated greenfield areas must achieve a minimum density target that is not less than 50 residents and jobs combined per hectare. In the regional official plan, the parcel is designated as designated greenfield area. Regional policies state that designated greenfield areas will be planned as compact, complete communities accommodating a range of land uses, including residential and commercial uses, that will make a significant contribution to the growth of the urban area as a complete community. The region requires a minimum combined gross density target of 50 people and jobs per hectare across all designated greenfield areas. The original official plan amendment, dated November 11, 2013, was submitted when the town's official plan 1974 consolidated was in force in effect. However, council's approval of the revised application must conform to the policies of the town's official plan 2014. In the official plan 1974 consolidated, the parcel was designated as urban residential. Major uses included single detached dwelling units, multiple dwelling units of various kinds, and apartments. Policy 1.18 of official plan 1974 stated that subject to a zoning bylaw amendment, retail commercial outlets would be permitted. The current official plan of the town is official plan 2014. For committee's information, the amended official plan application dated January 28th, 2015 was submitted following the OMB decision of July 18, 2014 that forced into effect the applicable policies that affect the subject parcel. As such, the amended official plan amendment will alter, if approved, Schedule A1 of the town's official plan 2014. The subject parcel is designated as urban highway commercial and greenfield overlay with the presence of a highly vulnerable aquifer. The permitted uses within the urban highway commercial designation include auto service and sales, restaurants and drive-thrus, that being an accessory use, accommodation facilities, supermarkets, and institutional. The proposed urban living area built boundary permitted uses include single detached dwellings, semi-detached townhouse, multiple, and apartment dwellings. Any application for development in designated greenfield areas shall demonstrate the site can achieve the required population and/or employment density of 50 people and jobs per hectare. The requested official plan amendment is to amend a portion of the subject parcel from urban highway commercial to urban living area built boundary. The proposed urban living area built boundary permitted uses include single detached dwellings, semi-detached townhouse, multiple, and apartment dwellings. The redesignation would permit future residential development. The applicant is not requesting any additional permitted uses. The town's zoning bylaw currently zones the parcel into two zones. The first, at the border with Welland Road, is zoned NC 108 zone. The permitted uses include banks, barber shops, and beauty salons, business and professional offices, convenience retail stores, and restaurants. The southern portion is currently agricultural or A zone. The requested zoning bylaw amendment is to amend the zoning of the subject parcel from NC 108 and A to NC site-specific, and NC 108 and A to RM1. The RM1 being on the western side of the parcel, and the NC site-specific being on the eastern. The proposed RM1 permitted uses in that zone include triplex dwellings, semi-detached dwellings, duplex dwellings, street or block townhouse dwellings. The proposed NC site-specific zone requests are shown on the following chart. So this chart indicates the requested NC site-specific uses and regulations that differ from the existing NC 108 zone. In permitted uses, under the requested zoning NC site-specific, the applicant is adding that a fuel retail use be added to the permitted uses list. Under regulations for commercial uses, number E, minimum front yard, the applicant is requesting a minimum front yard of 3 meters. Under section H, the minimum rear yard, establishing rear yard abutting an agricultural use of 3 meters. In relation to 22.2J, the maximum gross floor area for each permitted use, the applicant is requesting the maximum gross floor area be 824 square meters. Under general provisions 6.16H2, the applicant is requesting that the fuel retail outlet or automotive service station shall be located or maintained on any parking area. And under general provision 6.17B, the applicant is requesting where land is required to be used for no other purpose than a planting strip, it shall have a minimum width of 0.8 meters measured perpendicular to the lot line it adjourns. A preliminary site plan was prepared for this meeting. However, it is noted that a complete package hasn't been submitted by the applicant. The applicant is required to submit a complete site plan application. On March 17, 2015, notice was circulated to external and internal departments directly affected by the proposed application, and notice was circulated to all assessed property owners within 120 meters of the subject parcel's boundaries. In addition, a public notice sign was posted on the property facing Welland Road and another on Pelham Street. In regards to agency comments, the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, the City of Welland, the Department of Public Works and Utilities, the Department of Fire and Bylaw Services, and the Building Division all have no issues or objections with the two applications. To summarize the public comments that had been received prior to this evening, there were many concerns that were raised by residents in the area. And the chart illustrates the concern and then the planning application where the concern would be addressed. So you'll notice that there are several that are applicable to the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications that are before you this evening. And there are some that are specific to the site plan control process. In conclusion, this presentation has provided information on zoning bylaw application AM 0713 and official plan application OP AM 0315 to facilitate the development of a convenience store, a gas station, one multi-unit commercial building, and future residential development. It is emphasized that no recommendations or decisions concerning this application have been made at this meeting. And I'd like to thank the members of the public and council for attending this evening's meeting. Following this evening's meeting, questions and comments on this file may be directed to myself. My extension is 319, and my email is provided on the screen, and I also have business cards available. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hannah, for your presentation. Before I open it up to council who may have some questions, I note there's at least one person at the door, so please make your way. And I would ask council, there will be an opportunity to make statements or ask questions later, but if there's any questions that arose out of the presentation and not the part about the public comments, because we're going to hear from the public momentarily and deal with that correspondence. So any questions of sort of a planning nature in the presentation that Ms. Hannah made from members of council at this point? Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Pardon me, could we just see that slide prior to this one more time?
Please, thank you.
This one?
Yep.
Okay.
Ms. Hannah, is that slide in the package that was provided
It is.
So I don't know if there's more packages available. There are. Perhaps those can be distributed if members of the public would like to have them, and you can, there's others there available. I do have a question. It's just regarding, Ms. Hannah, you said something about the presence of the Greenfield overlay and the presence of a highly vulnerable aquifer. What does that mean?
There
You could
is,
stand up so everybody could see you. Thank you.
there is a aquifer that is present underneath the subject parcel. It actually extends through much of Font Hill proper in the
Okay.
urban area.
So it's not specific to that site?
No,
okay.
it's quite a large aquifer that exists.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. Thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Durley?
Thank you. Just building on that, Mr. Mayor, if in fact something happens at this site, it could affect a lot of places in all of Pelham, right?
Ms. Hannah, can you comment on that, or?
The NPCA in their comments indicated that they do not have a concern with this development in terms of its impact on the aquifer because the development will be connecting into municipal services. In terms of the gas outlet specifically, TSSA is responsible for regulating the construction of the facility and also monitoring the facility. So should there be any adverse impact from the facility, it would be addressed at that time through TSSA and then the government as well.
Okay. Please, everybody. Thank you. Councilor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just further to that, everything's going to be built to a standard, everything's going to be watched, everything there. What I'm concerned of, what happens if there's an accident, or I'll use the term loosely for that, is the water supply in that aquifer in jeopardy? That may be difficult for a planner to.
Can you answer that, either Ms. Hannah or Mr.
answer,
Glover?
but that certainly is a concern that I have.
The specifics of water pollution are outside my area of expertise. That would be a expert that's at the MPCA staff. But in terms of monitoring and then potentially cleaning up any adverse impact, the TSSA would be involved, the Ministry of Environment would be involved, and there would have to be corrections made to the soil and the surrounding areas to ensure that the soil is clean and that any adverse impact to the aquifer is mitigated.
Just
Councilor Durley?
further to, sorry to put you on the spot, but I'm just wondering if, in fact, serious consideration could be given to this when this goes back to staff for recommendation, and in fact, that be given particular attention as to consulting with some experts just to see exactly what we can do to protect.
Staff can request the MPCA provide further comments on the aquifer through their hydrogeological staff.
Based on these concerns. Thank
Based
you.
on those concerns
Okay.
that can be addressed in the recommendation report.
Thank you.
Any others? I was hoping we would just deal with the planning piece and not kind of give direction to get information out. So, but Councillor Papp, you have a question, and there might be others.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the planner. Thank you. Very comprehensive. I'm trying to just summarize this. So what has changed from the last time this was presented to us is we now have a multi-residential component to it. We no longer have I remember there was a car wash. The gas station is still being requested, even though it's not part of our official plan. That's what they're asking for. This multi-unit commercial building, what exactly is that? I know there's a convenience store. What are these other components? We have a
And
description.
some of these might be more applicable for the applicant who's up next.
Okay, well,
But,
then I'll defer that, and I'll ask that same question.
I do want to clarify that the original application included the oil facility that no longer is part of this
The oil change.
application. The oil change. The gas is still
Still there.
constant, and then, as you said, the RM1 is new to this application.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll defer to.
Okay, all right,
That's fine.
thank you. Any others? I had one more question, and hopefully this won't open things up, but just for clarity, if we know this, you stated in your presentation, Ms. Hannah, that in 1992, the OMB amended its 1991 decision, and I know that's, a lot of us were a lot younger then, but do we know what prompted that amendment by the Ontario Municipal Board? Do we have any, it wasn't in your application? Do you know now tonight, or is that something that you have to get information on?
Just briefly, the application was amended to the OMB following planning staff at the town preparing a amending bylaw that went to the OMB in 1992 with the support of the applicant at that time. And that is when they took out the gas bar as a permitted use and also included the maximum gross floor area for each permitted use. And that was done after several consultants evaluating the file on behalf of the town and working towards a amicable decision for the town and the applicants. And so the OMB decision of 1991 was amended to reflect the amending bylaw that was presented by the town to the OMB.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that clarity, and that helps. Any others? Okay, thank you. And now I would ask the applicant or his or her agent to present. And you come up to the podium. Thank you. And if you could introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. Charles Dyer, President of Sovereign Asset Management and owner of the property. First of all, I want to thank council for hearing me tonight and presenting this opportunity to present our plans. I want to thank planning staff. They've been of great help and assistance in getting us to this point as well. I'm going to keep my comments fairly brief. I'm mainly here to ask or to answer questions that the council may have. So the only thing I'd like to point out is you can see, if you recall, over a year ago when we made our first application, there's been considerable amount of change. And in doing that, or I guess in coming about that change, we've tried to engage the town and the public through a design charrette. Staff have been very helpful in bringing forward. We listened to some of the comments that came out of the last application. And so some of the changes, obviously, we've now created a residential buffer between the commercial plaza and the commercial activities and the current residents. We think that that's a real compromise on our behalf, and I think it does make for a better development, quite frankly. Obviously, you've heard we've eliminated the oil change facility. There was a lot of concern about noise, I think, with regard to that, and so we've eliminated that. And the other things, you know, and you're not seeing it yet because you're not seeing the renderings, but we spent a lot of time on design, and this is going to be a very high-quality project. Some of the zoning relief that we're asking for is to enable us to incorporate that high level of design, bring the buildings closer to the street, give it more of a gateway look, those kinds of things. New urbanism, hide the fueling station as much as possible. So a lot of this rezoning is for that purpose, is to make it a better looking development. So with that, I'll pretty much open it up to you for questions that you may have of us at this point. And
Thank you very much, Mr. Dyer, for your presentation. Councillor Papp, I know you had a question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dyer, through you, Mr. Mayor. So this multi-unit commercial building, what exactly are you proposing to put in there?
currently, we're in the tenanting phase. I can't get too specific. We do have a couple of restaurant uses that will be going into it. We have an office user that is actually two office users that are looking at the space. At the, what we call the LOI stage, letter of intent stage, we're not at a lease stage. I can't make any announcements tonight, but those are the type. It's going to be a very mixed use building.
Councillor?
Just in making the, I guess, the business case for this particular development, I'm curious to know what evidence did you use? What sort of protocol or market work did you use for the gas station placement? What exactly, how did you make that determination based on what?
Yeah, we didn't do that as a company, but we work very closely. I don't think it's a secret that it's Max Milk that's going in here, and that's Couche-Tard, one of the largest gas convenience operators actually in the world. Very well-run company. They actually did a lot of research. They want to be in this town, and they feel they can do very well at the site. So they really are the ones that did it. We are a strategic partner with them. We've developed a number of sites with them. And this one is what we call a seed point, basically. So they've done a lot of market research and feel, and unfortunately they couldn't be here tonight, but they feel they're investing, many millions of dollars in this project, and so they wouldn't be doing that without having a lot of research behind them. So they're very confident.
Okay, I'll leave it at that for this point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Durley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I credit you for hearing the people and looking at some type of a buffer, a residential strip to be developed later. Now, all of this commercial is going to be developed likely much before the residential.
Yeah,
You people, I understand, are commercial developers, not residential developers. Who's going to develop this?
We are actually looking to partner with somebody in town. Again, I can't divulge that yet. There's two ways we could do this. We have done some residential developments. We're doing one in Oakville right now in Bronte, which is similar to this. It's a 10-unit high-end townhouse development. So it's not like we don't do any of that work, but you're right. Primarily, we are commercial developers. And I'll admit, I don't know the Fawn Hill market. I really don't. So on the residential side, that is. So we will likely be partnering with somebody local, or there's a possibility we could sell that piece to a local developer as well and let them develop it.
Further to that, a lot of people are here because of concern with commercial being in their backyard.
Sure.
This residential strip is going to be even closer to that. Do you foresee some challenges in having this residential development actually take shape? And be
Well,
occupied?
I guess that's our risk. This was, like I say, this was a compromise. We would be economically further ahead developing the entire thing as a commercial site, I can tell you. But we thought that this was a compromise that made sense, quite frankly. And we do want a development, we don't, my history, my company has a history. I don't like to fight things at the OMB. I don't like to fight councils. I don't like to fight staff, quite frankly. I like to work with the community. So our record is very, very much in that way. So that's why we developed it like we did. We listened, and, frankly, I guess we'll have to see. But we're taking that risk, because once that zoning's on there, it's pretty hard to change it to commercial, so.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Others for the presenter? Councillor Accursi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Dyer. One of the concerns is the gas dispensing area, and I noticed it's quite large. You're proposing 5 dispensing stations.
Yeah.
Has there been consideration given to reducing that to, say, 3, and keeping the 3 that are closer to the road and further away from the residential component and the neighbors as well?
Yeah, I can, there hasn't been a lot, but I can tell you this tenant will not do less than 5. So in other words, to make this project happen from our perspective, we have to have 5 pumps. And typically they like to do even more than that. They would do 6, but they can get away with 5 at this location. So 3, the economics get very, very difficult for these guys with the investment that they have.
I see. Okay. Mr. Mayor, a secondary question. In your commercial multi-tenanted building, what is the average square footage of each space?
The building is approximately 8,600 square feet, in that range. I can't remember exactly. And each unit, there will be, I believe, 8 units at about 1,100 each. But they're combinable. We're making it a very flexible building. One of the tenants that's looking to take space is looking at between 2,000 and 3,000 feet. So they're combinable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Others? Councillor Ribbiak, did you have a question? I saw you signal earlier.
Oh, I'm not sure that I signaled, but I do have a question,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, and it has to do with I guess the technicalities of a gas bar. We've read and we will hear tonight, I'm sure, a fair amount of concern about the impact of the gas bar on the surrounding community. And I'm guessing that a lot of those questions can be answered technically, whether satisfactorily or not is another matter, but at least accurately, technically, by the gas dispensing company, Max Convenience. So it's kind of a shame that they're not here to to get into that, or are you capable of answering
I'm
questions
somewhat
with
capable.
regard to?
I am a professional engineer, actually, and I do in civil engineering. So I don't want to put myself up as an expert witness, but I could put some of the thing, as Julie mentioned, TSSA is the controlling body for these tanks. I can tell you, as the landowner, nobody is more impacted by a contamination than myself. I think I said it at the last meeting I was at. We are holders of our properties. We have no intention of selling this project. We haven't sold a single project that we developed. We buy long-term investments. We're going to be a long-term investor in the town. So I have a lot on the line with regard to that contamination because my land is the one that's hurt. And I can tell you that we have about, I think in our lease with Couche-Tard, I think there are 30 pages of environmental clauses in there with regard to, double-lined fiberglass tanks, monitoring systems. It's come a long way since the days of the old steel tank, stick it in the ground and let it rust out. That just doesn't happen. So I'm very, very, very confident that there won't be any problems. And we've developed a number of sites with gas. We don't only do gas sites, but we've developed a number of our sites with gas on them. And I'm very confident in their ability to both monitor and make sure that there's no contamination. The other thing I would say, I don't know exactly this aquifer, but if it does run under most of the town, I think the least of your worries is going to be this gas station. I think there will be other gas sites that you might have more of a worry of. I'm guessing, but I'm just saying this will be to the highest and latest technology.
Yeah. There are other kinds of contamination that I think people have concerns about.
Mm-hmm.
Light, noise,
Yep.
traffic in the area, traffic congestion, those kinds of things. So really, I was perhaps referring to technical aspects of the design of this in terms of how it's going to be used, how it's going to impact the area around it, what people can expect to experience as a result of this being there, and to what extent is this gas station different or improved over the design of gas stations that we're all familiar with elsewhere? Okay, well, one of the things that is, I think, improved, we're having a hard time convincing gas tenants to do this, but Terrence, have really pushed for the building to be up against the road. Okay, the original design, I'm not even sure it was ever presented, or it might have been. I'm not sure if the original had it this way, but your typical gas station has, the gas bar right at the corner, right? Lots of visibility and the gas, and the convenience in behind it. So we totally turned that upside down. I had a lot of convincing to do with Couche-Tard to do that, but we did. And we put the building up against the corner, so it's got that sort of new urbanism look with an enhanced landscape, enhanced building. So that's one of the ways we've done it. Mm-hmm. Another thing, you talk about light pollution. We will be directing all of the light into the site. The light need will be minimized. There is a photometric study that we'll be doing, but we've done it on many sites, and I have every confidence that our engineers can make that happen. So that's important. We have commissioned and already have the results of a traffic study that we've done on the site. And so, and that also gave us a lot of input into the flow internally, as well as where to put the entrances and all that kind of thing. So that's been done. I'm trying to remember what other. Noise?
And noise. Well, one of the biggest things, the concern was noise with the oil facility, obviously, and that's now out of the equation. So there wouldn't be any more noise from this site than there'd be from any retail development. And I think it's important to realize that, sort of as of right with the new official plan of the town, we could develop the entire site commercially. We're trying to put that buffer in and protect the current residents that are there. And so that's one way we've tried to mitigate that. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Others? I just, I think it's referenced in one of the letters, but I drove by the site again tonight to take another look at it, and it dips down quite considerably. There's quite a dip in, I don't know what that is. It's
there's a little
feet.
Yeah, there's a little guess a drainage swale you'd call it, that comes through the middle, but that will be taken care of with the drainage system.
But I guess from the street level to the back of the property where it's zoned,
Correct.
currently zoned agricultural, it looks like it's, I don't know, 4 feet, maybe more.
Yeah.
So how are you planning to deal with that and raise that up to make it all level and all work?
Well, typically, we're not at the formal site plan stage yet, so I don't have all that design work done. Frankly, we don't want to, and the reason we're not at that stage yet is obviously we need to get our zoning and OP in order before I start spending a
appreciate
lot of
that.
money, right?
It is a concern that's been expressed in one of the letters.
It is, and preliminarily speaking, there will be a small berm, I guess, and we will have to build that area up slightly.
Okay.
But it's very feasible. It won't look like, Hoover Dam or anything like that.
Okay.
It's very doable, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Now we will move to input from members of the community, public input. And as I stated earlier, if there's individuals that would like to present, we'd prefer that you come to the podium just so that we can record it on both video and audio. It'd be helpful for us for the record that if you would say your name and your address, you can make a presentation. If you're asking a question, I might have to play a little bit of a referee and see if we can get the answers from both either the applicant or town staff. And I would just ask that we do so in an orderly fashion. So who's first? Thank you. Please come up.
Hi there. My name is Connie Hubers, and I'm at 8 Michaela.
Thank
So
you.
in reference to this lot, my house backs right onto it, right about where the dividing line is for the agricultural and the NC 108 land.
I'm going to ask that we put a site sort of map on the screen. So, but please continue.
So first of all, I'd just like to say that to Mr. Dyer that we do appreciate that the oil change facility has been removed. And the idea of a future potential residential buffer, of course, is appreciated. But in the current plans, and please forgive me, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I don't have a lot of confidence in what he's presenting, simply because I took a few minutes to look at what he has posted on his website. I also spoke with Cushman Wakefield, who has the lease available, and all different avenues where you can find out what's available for lease from Sovereign Asset Management in regards to this property is different. For example, when I spoke with Cushman Wakefield, their first conversation with me was that it was wide open and that there was no existing tenants. Then a further conversation said that yes, Max Milk and a gas station would be there. When you look at the site plan of the package that they sent me, it doesn't include the residential. It still includes the original map that was presented a year ago, as well as the current one, which makes me nervous as a homeowner. Is he trying to leave his options open? And then when I go to their own website, it still shows the original plan as an option. And map, offering 15,000 square feet plus an additional 6,300 square feet. So, again, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it doesn't give me a lot of confidence here, because what he's conveying out to the public and what he's presenting as available is different than what he's presenting here this evening. So I don't know how, as council or as neighbors, we can be confident in what he's going to provide. He talks about high quality product, but I don't know if I can believe that. The website has lots of different options, and also in his package here, he makes a reference to 22,000 daily traffic count, which does not coincide with the traffic study that that's posted on the website. as well as it being surrounded by new residential, restaurants, and national retailers. We don't have any of that in the immediate area. So that is just what I wanted to bring out, my lack of confidence in this presentation.
Thank you very much. Before we continue, I'd ask if maybe you could put a site map, not of the site plan, but of the actual, maybe one of the earlier ones, maybe either the town zoning bylaw from your slide deck, just so that if an aerial kind of overview there, that one,
Ariel?
no, go back. There, that one. That might be a good one, so that if residents want to point out where they're located, it might help both council and themselves. Okay? Thank you very much again for your presentation. Are there any other members of the public that would like to present? Please come forward. And again, your name and address. Thank you.
Natalie Duduch, 21 Woodside Square. Thank you very much for this public forum. Mayor Dave, honored councilors. I have three points I'd like to make. First, a question, second, a clarification, and thirdly, a submission. My first is a very short question. I have not come to any of the other meetings, I will admit, and I was not able to find in this package the size of this proposed development. Can somebody answer that question in square footage? 1022 Pelham.
Ms. Hannah, can you assist, please? You're talking about the square footage of the entire parcel, or?
Yes, the entire parcel, which Sovereign Asset Management is.
The total lot area is approximately 1.77 acres. In terms of the commercial development, the lot area
But under the purview of Sovereign Asset Management, it is the
Yeah.
entire 1.77 acres.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, that was,
Oh.
that was the commercial. The size of the entire is 2.81 acres or 1.14 hectares. The commercial portion is the 1.77 acres or 0.72 hectares.
Perhaps I should have asked Mr. Dyer. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hannah.
And it would be too much to ask that in square feet, I guess. I'm not much.
43,560.
Oh, we have someone who will do that. Thank you
We
very much.
usually use acres or hectares when it gets large, but.
Well, it leads to my second point. Now, am I correct in understanding that currently this area is zoned as urban highway commercial? Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. Part of it, well,
Part of it. Okay.
not zoned.
It's designated.
Ms. Hannah, can you clarify? So under the, and sometimes there's misunderstandings between zoning and official plan and all of that.
Okay.
So Ms. Hannah, if you could just go through that very quickly.
So the designation of the parcel
You could stand up, thank
is urban highway commercial, and it has a greenfield overlay. The applicant is requesting a portion of that be redesignated to urban living area built boundary.
I understood that. But currently,
Currently, the entire parcel is designated as urban highway commercial.
thank you. Now, to that end, would you clarify for me, please, whether it is Pelham Road or Welland Road, which is considered to be urban highway? Or do I misunderstand the term
I
of
think it's-
urban highway
I would-
commercial?
The land use designation itself relates to the entire parcel, and it's classification in the official plan to designate specific areas of land throughout the community as different land uses. In this case, urban highway commercial being applied to the intersection of Welland and Pelham Street.
I guess I'm just having trouble understanding what's the urban highway in it, especially when, again, please correct me if I'm wrong, there are still two parts of this land which are deemed agricultural, which is what A represents, correct?
The agricultural is the zoning, so the designation of the official plan is different than the zoning.
Zoning, okay.
The zoning is from the 1987 zoning. On this land, the northern portion was amended by the OMB order, most recently of 1992.
Right.
The official plan from 2014 is the designation portion. The zoning, that would be in conformity with the official plan of 2014, has not yet been completed.
All right, thank you. That helps to illuminate a little bit. My third point is my submission. And again, this is, Mayor Dave was very kind to take a phone call, actually a while back when I was, when this was brought to my attention. Actually, I had received a letter from, I think, one of the folks here. And this piqued my interest. I had no knowledge of any plans for that section of my neighborhood. It's not that far from me. And so I became quite interested. And I understood then that, you know, this part of land had gone through lots of changes. There were lots of questions. There were errors that were made, and that's fine. That happens. But my particular question was this. Having lived in Fonthill now for 25 years, and my personal background is one of those bureaucrats, sorry, recently retired. So I'm still thinking in my critical thinking mode, and I'm thinking, okay, so the needs assessment, I believe somebody brought it up here. Okay, market needs assessment. And so again, I looked in this package, which I was very grateful to receive, and I saw a few comments. One was that it was suggested by the region in in June of 2010, the region recommended that a policy requiring a market impact study for all major commercial development of greater than 1,800 square meters, and I think that what we've heard is that it's bigger than 1,800 square meters?
No, it's smaller than that.
It is smaller than that. Oh, so the math that you did is that it's smaller than that?
Sorry, I'm sorry. If you could please direct your comments through me so that,
Pardon?
remember I said at the
Pardon.
beginning, we'd like this to be as orderly as possible.
I'm
Otherwise, the
sorry.
meeting will start to fall apart and people won't hear and people won't be able to get a chance to, so you have a question.
Yes.
And your question is what?
I'm at my submission stage in terms of this market study. I understood that the region recommended in 2010 that there be a market impact study for all major commercial developments. And in November of 2014, a pre-consultation meeting was held, and it was deemed that a market needs study was not deemed required due to the size of the development. So that's why I led in with my first question, which
Right.
was about the size of the development.
So maybe staff can clarify that. That is a requirement, as I understand it, and I have it in front of me in terms of the urban highway commercial designation,
Yes.
that anything bigger than 1,800 square meters, a market study, et cetera, is required. This is less than that. Can we
It is less.
Can we hear from staff?
At the pre-consultation meeting, a planner from the region was present, and a market impact study was not indicated as being a requirement from the region for this proposal, because the size of the proposal was under the requirement.
Okay. Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Are there others?
My name's Greg Hubers. I live at 8 Michaela, which is the line between the NC 108 and the A up there. First thing I'd like to, that was my wife that was up here before. I also, the things I do like about the plan was of course, the residential buffer that was projected. I hope it never gets built personally, but that's fine. At least we have it there now. I don't even mind having a convenience store because when I come home from work, there's really nowhere to go besides the Avondale, and and they're always out of sour cream. So I wouldn't mind if there was a residential, a store there. The only problem I have is, again, is the hours that we've discussed. I know when in the slide we had, which talks about some of the concerns, that was listed as not applicable. However, when I look at adequate screening, which will be necessary to buffer the residential from the commercial, I think it's important to know whether or not it's going to be a 24-hour-a-day operation. Because when I look at my kid's bedroom, I live in a two-story house. A 6-foot fence, which I think he's got projected in his plan, that's not going to screen us at nighttime when I've got a full operational store in my backyard. When I look at I see the bylaw amendment, he's trying to change the landscape strip to 0.8 meters on the property where he's designating he wants to make the new residential and to the commercial, which is fine, because with a fence across there, I'm not going to see if there's 10 meters of sod or if there's going to be 0.8. But I know we have the bylaw, 6.17, which talks about a planting strip. You have to plant trees along this landscape strip as well. I don't know I wasn't part of the package of him trying to pull that out as well. I know I talked to a couple different landscape architects today. In a 0.8 meter landscape strip, those trees, they have little chance of thriving. They might survive, but they'll actually probably die. So in my mind, I think these trees are something that is going to be necessary for us to screen us from something like this in the future. I know something's going to go back there. That's fine. I just want to make sure that the quality of my life isn't interrupted because of this. Like we said at the previous meeting, we've spent a lot of time, a lot of us spent a lot of money on different landscaping, different features in our yard so that we can enjoy them. I don't want to have to look at this different times of day, you know what I mean? I don't mind if it's convenient for me to go to the store at around 8 o'clock to get something, but it's a little inconvenient for a bunch of maybe liquored up teenagers coming from the park to get Doritos at 2 in the morning outside of my kid's bedroom windows. That is a screening issue. And I know that as part of this whole process, it talks about prior to considering a zoning bylaw amendment or a site plan approval, council has to be satisfied that proposed use abuts it talks about or is proximate to an existing or proposed landscape residential land use. Fencing, landscaping, berming, or a combination of these elements is utilized to ensure adequate screening. The plan that we've been given, it's pretty basic. We've already been told that he hasn't submitted a site plan, so I don't know how council can be satisfied that this is going to happen without seeing what is actually going to be proposed in the end. So I think maybe we're here a little early, because I think this is necessary for you to make an informed decision on whether or not he's going to meet this criteria. Like I said, there's a lot of things there that he's done, which we appreciate. Another thing I was worried about was on the page where he's talking about changing. He's got in general provision 6.16. It talks about the fuel retail outlet or automobile service station shall be located or maintained. Why is automobile service station in there? I figure that would probably encompass an oil lube filter. I'm afraid that will be something that comes back later in the end, even though it's off the table now. Once it's zoned, what's to prevent it from going into a future time? I know staff has some kind of a say in the site plan because of this being a gateway community. But little things like that I look at, and I'm just worried that, it's bad enough that we missed this designation to urban highway, which, was something that, I don't know how all of us could have missed it. We're all here now. But I think it was maybe not portrayed to us as well as it should have been. But I just don't want to get any further into trouble here. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Hybers. And I know that they have been duly noted and will be considered, as will all comments when reports are written with recommendation to council. Are there others that would like to make a presentation? Please, sir, come forward. And then,
Thank you. My name is Giorgio Panici. I live at 19 Michaela Crescent. I would like to just speak to a couple points regarding the proposal here. First of all, I too am a long-term investor in Fonthill, as Mr. Charles Dyer has pointed out. I will be living here after the project, whatever project becomes part of that vacant piece of land. I just want to give you some of my credentials, my background, so you understand where I'm coming from my comments, that they have validity to them. I've been involved in all my career in land and natural resources management with a focus on land acquisition and commercial real estate. I'm a land agent by profession. I'm also a licensed realtor in the province of Ontario. They're slightly different, but basically the same. I was born and raised in Niagara, St. Catharines in particular, and always wanted to live in Fonthill. I lived in Fonthill in the late 90s. I owned some property at the north end of Pelham Street, and then since moved out. In 2014, my wife and I moved back to Fonthill and invested property there, as well as I have a little bit of investment at the Niagara Central Airport, which is also within the town of Pelham. As an officer for the province of Alberta, one of my past employments, I reviewed hundreds of oil and hazardous chemical spills and developed plans to mitigate those spills and to help do the cleanup. As part of my job as a land agent, I review hundreds of appraisals every day, all throughout the year, and all the different various projects that I'm involved with. I also hold a senior right-of-way agent designation, which is the highest accreditation that you could achieve through the International Right-of-Way Association. So I have some knowledge about this. I have to stress, I'm not an engineer. I don't have a professional degree. What I have is years of experience in dealing with these kind of matters. I see that in the package that, unfortunately, my email that I had sent to the councillors and yourself, Mayor Dave, that it didn't make it there. So I'd like to read that for the benefit of the folks that are here.
I think
Your
it
town
is-
of
I
Pelham
think-
Count.
I think it is included. We did get it.
I don't think, but the public hasn't got it in their package. I don't believe it's there unless I missed it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the correspondence was received after the agenda was published.
Right.
It is on the members of council's agenda, and it is included as part of their resolution to receive.
Right. Do you mind if I read it for the public's benefit?
No, we just wanted to get clear. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Dear Town of Pelham Council, Mayor Dave, Augustin, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, sorry. Councillors John Durley and Peter Papp. My name is George Panici, and I live at 19 Michaela Crescent. I recently moved to the Fonthill, purchased a property near the vacant subject parcel, and also invested in the Niagara Central Airport, as well as owned property in the past at the north end of Pelham Street. I'm very proud to call Fonthill my home again, and I'm very concerned about the proposed development at the intersection of Quaker Welland and Pelham Street by Sovereign Asset Management, the 24-hour gas bar. My understanding that this application for a change of zoning is to allow a gas station at 1022 Pelham Street was withdrawn. However, it appears that it is back. I strongly oppose this development in the present form and would like your support to mitigate this. I'm not against improvement and development. However, I have many concerns and issues regarding this particular development as presently being presented. As one of the councillors and mayor pointed out in the December 9, 2013 special meeting, they are focused on the appearance of this gateway to Pelham, and it represents Pelham for what we have become to known as a small town feel. I'm greatly focused on the wishes of those most impacted by this development, those taxpayers, their family members, those whom have invested in living in the town of Pelham. That, sirs, should be paramount and the utmost importance in the top of your minds. There is an existing gas power 1.6 kilometers away. Do we really need another? If you want a stellar gateway, why does not the town buy this parcel and develop it rather than leave it to chance to an out-of-town developer? If you look at the present gateways, they're all gas stations. I guess that means to a visitor to town of Pelham is all about gas. The highest and best use of this vacant parcel of land is more residential development, or as an alternative, a single-story medical, or I should also have said two-story medical office building that would bring more needed essential service to an ever-growing and aging local population. This kind of non-residential development I could easily support, and I feel, not speaking for the others, my neighbors that are with me here tonight, they would probably feel the same. This complex could easily be buffered by this additional residential. That would make it a 10-hour per day traffic increase as opposed to 24 hours per day. We, the local residents in the proximity to this proposal, presently wait long periods of time to get past the traffic lights at Pelham Quaker Welland intersection. Due to the high volume of traffic, and a 24-hour gas bar will only increase that traffic immensely within several blocks of this intersection. Recent real estate figures show that the commercial development is struggling in the Niagara region as a whole and has decreased by approximately 53% same time last year. As pointed out by some local realtors and residents at your December 9, 2013 meeting, a commercial strip mall will be difficult to support even with a brand gas station as the anchor. The area surrounding the vacant parcel is all residential, other than the Tire Real Estate office directly across the street to the east and the church to the north. There is no room for further commercial expansion of this nature beyond this point, as this area must have been and originally planned to be all residential. Any random conversations I've had with both town and non-town residents have all expressed, brackets, quotation, that's not a good place for a gas station, which is common sense. Please let common sense prevail in this case. There are many comments being expressed by the residents that the planning department is pushing this through. I tend to agree with this for a simple fact that I placed a call to the town planning department on March 13, 2015, and was told by the director of planning, Terrence Glover, that this meeting would be May 11, 2015. Since I was beyond the insufficient 120 meter required direct notification zone, I would have to watch for other public notices around at that time to confirm the meeting date. Not more than 2 weeks later, I was able to obtain a written notice through a kind neighbor that the date was actually April 13th, tonight, accelerated by a month. When I asked the director of planning at that time what the notice was for the yellow Town of Pelham notice, public notice posted, however, nothing was written on that notice at that time, he admitted this should not have been posted yet. It remained this way for at least a week before wording was inscribed on it. This seems at the very least poor communication to the public at large. Unfortunately, most of us, including 19 Michaela Crescent, would not be receiving notification regarding the upcoming council meeting due to the applicant's revised proposal, as I was informed by planning that the town's requirement is only to inform those that are 120 meters or less to the nearest property line from any point on the subject parcel. Considering the magnitude of this proposal development, this is grossly insufficient. The rule should be amended to expand the notification area to at least 1,000 meters. Most large-scale developments require a much greater notification radius than 120 meters. We recently received notification by the town regarding the proposed development site's gateway to our neighborhood. Everyone knows it's Pelham. We do not be reminded of this. It's highly unlikely many of us who would drive north on Pelham Street require the gateway to know that we're in Font Hill proper. The gateway is a nice way of hiding an immense eyesore this kind of proposal may create. On a foggy night like the last few nights, the lights from the gas bar will light up the sky all night. On a hot summer night, we will have to endure the smell of petroleum fumes venting out of the ground tanks as all-night tanker trucks roll in at all hours of the day to replenish the ground storage tanks. You know environmentalists call, and I should have said environmental inspectors, I was actually referring to environmental inspectors, call this lust. Leaking underground storage tanks, the first letter of each one of those words. It's an actual term that they use when they're doing environmental inspections for Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 mitigation. Just think of the explosive and extremely hazardous situation so close to our homes and the possible health effects. Petroleum products are a known link to cause a number of chronic illness, including cancer. I am asking my elected representatives, the mayor, both Ward 3 councillors, who I voted for, to represent the long-standing residents of this neighborhood that are in close proximity to this proposed development by not supporting the zoning change as being outlined to allow for the gas station in its present form as proposed. There must have been a reason why the OMB revised its decision in 1992, that's prior to the information I received tonight, to remove the gas station as a permitted use on that list. The presence of an application for development requiring the zoning change does not justify the change itself to be made. I ask that you make serious and sound considerations to the history that will be recorded by allowing this change in zoning to be made to accommodate the applicant's proposal. I request the town clerk to officially record this email regarding the proposed development. Kindest regards, myself.
Thank you.
My professional opinion is that a buffer will be very difficult to support, the residential buffer. A 24-hour gas bar is not conducive to good lifestyle. In other words, what I'm saying is that if you have a gas station that's there 24 hours, the likelihood of somebody wanting to buy a residential property at that buffer that's being designated is going to be very tough to support. It's going to be very tough to sell. It probably can be sold, but it will be sold at a much less value than the surrounding properties in that area. The houses on Michaela anyways are probably somewhere in the range of $375,000 to maybe $500,000. So it would be very difficult to support that same type of value in that area as comparables go. Notwithstanding the impact that the gas station itself has on the remaining properties in and around on Hunter's Court and on Welland and Michaela and so on. The concern I had on part of the applicant's proposal tonight or presentation was that there seems to be a lot of vague information as to the studies, what the commercial building will look like, you know, how many will actually be in there, the chance that the residential area will be developed. I think the concerns of the citizens we have here is that we'll end up with a gas station at that corner, which I'm opposed to 24 hours, that will only do nothing but devalue the properties. I have had a number of calls from other residents, and unfortunately they weren't able to be here tonight, that have new properties just to the east of that intersection. There's been some 4 or 5 very large properties, very large homes built in that area that will be directly in line of sight to the proposed development if it was a gas station. I could easily support anything else that was more residential, that was a office type residential combination. That could be an easy sell. I thank you very much for your time, and I do thank the planning department for a lot of their time and questions that I've called and barraged them with and so on. I thank you for allowing me to give this input.
Thank you very much, Mr. Panici, for your input. And as was noted, we do have your letter. There was a gentleman here that wanted to go first, and then and I did see you, sir, but I'm going to ask you to maybe hold off because you did come late and others were here and they wanted to present, so thank you.
Yeah, hi, my name is Joe Shrew. I live at 14 Michaela Crescent. I just wanted to say, you know, all the comments about property value, whatever, that's fine. That's not my concern. My concern is the environmental impact of a gas station and the day-to-day effects of the gas station in that intersection. Anyone who lives in Pelham and specifically around that area knows that in the morning between 7 and 9, it's a high traffic area. There's a lot of school buses, a lot of kids, and anyone who wants to turn right has to dodge the shoulder because we need a turn lane to the right at the red light there. Also, this identified highly vulnerable aquifer. The person who intends to build the area said, quote, tonight, he said in front of you and in front of all of us, I don't know much about this highly vulnerable aquifer, but you should. You should know about it. I don't know if Max Milks knows about it. They didn't think it was important enough to come down here and talk to you, talk to us. Like other residents have said, I'm not opposed to residential, you know, developing the area. But I'll tell you, come down on a school day in the morning or on a Saturday, see how many kids are out playing around. That doesn't cut it for me. I don't know much about a highly vulnerable aquifer. We need to know about that. I have a written submission that I submitted to council as well as emailed to the lady who kindly gave me her business card, indicating what's the real impact of the proposed fueling station in our neighborhood. Goes from different comments about water, vegetation, fauna, air, social, economic impact. And I know the square footage idea didn't, you know, according to the rules for the economic assessment, it didn't qualify. But as my neighbor said, I said there was currently a fueling station within about 1 kilometer from the proposed site and 3 additional fueling stations within a radius of 4 kilometers. The need for an additional gas station is therefore mitigated by their presence. This on top of placing a gas station on the highly vulnerable aquifer, which the builder in front of you and in front of all of us today said, I don't know much about it, but, you know, I'm sure we'll take care of it. That doesn't jive well with me, my neighbors, or all the little kids that live in the area. You know, it'll definitely contribute to the town's economic development. However, at this particular time, just from me driving around over this past weekend, there looks to be more than 20 retail spaces currently vacant and for rent within a radius of 3.5 kilometers of the proposed site. These are taxpayers in Pelham, that people are paying taxes and properties that need to be rented. In fact, right across the street, I believe there's a vacant sign in the building right across the street from the proposed site where we're going to put this big strip plaza. There's negative impacts during the construction phase, removal of vegetation, soil disturbance, occupation, health and safety hazards, increased demand for water, generation of solid waste, soil and groundwater contamination, fire risk, increased demand for water, electricity supplies, air pollution, solid waste generation, traffic congestion, pollution to the soil and the groundwater. These are important factors. We're all caretakers of our property and the land that we live on. I'm not opposed to business or making money. Everybody sees value in that. What we need to see value in is protecting the land. What's the extent of this aquifer? What will it affect? That term lust is scary to me, should be scary to you too. I just think we need to work together and make better decisions on this. And I think that if the person who was going to develop this property actually cared about the community, Max Milk would be down here, and we'd have an answer, because I believe this letter is dated April 1st about the aquifer from the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. And basically, they're not saying anything about it. They're washing their hands of it. It says it provides comments with respect to the HVA when a proposal involves a new private sector system. As this proposal will be on municipal sanitary services, the NBCA does not offer any comments with respect to the aquifer. That's a pretty easy way to say, I don't know. And I don't know from the Niagara Peninsula Conservation, and I don't know from the land developer, leaves me with a lot of questions that I don't know answers to. So I'd just like you to take that into consideration and appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Mr. Shiru. Appreciate it. And in the front, thank you.
It's going to be very short and sweet. Mary Ulisco, I live on
He picks you up well, so you don't have to.
I'm so used to this at school. At 22 Michaela. I'm just questioning, has there been a needs assessment for another gas station? I particularly had an experience one Sunday night. I had to leave early the next morning. I thought about which gas station to go to. From my house on 22 Michaela, I have a choice of 5 gas stations. I really don't think we need a 6th one. But I had 5 within 5 minutes. I mean, I know some of them are in Welland and some of them are, I found out today, I thought it was Fawn Hill, but it's Thorold. But it's within 5 minutes by my house. So I question the need for another gas station.
Okay, thank you very much. Others? Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Murray Downey. I live at 10 Michaela Crescent. That's the last one that backs onto this property. I just got 3 points I want to bring up. Mr. Dyer mentioned that they don't sell their properties. And as a neighbor, for the length of time they've owned that property, I can also tell you that they don't maintain it. So as wonderful as this is going to be, like Mayor, you drove by it today. Did you notice the sign line on the ground? Mm-hmm. It's been that way since last summer. I think the grass was cut once last summer, wasn't it, after you complained? So I do have some concerns about how well this property is going to be a gateway project to Pelham. The second point is the convenience store, putting it up tight against the property lines. It just dawned on me, I was sitting here thinking, like, I drive eastbound every morning. And if that building's tight against the property lines, that really cuts into the sight lines for traffic that's northbound on Pelham. And I've sat there long enough to know that people run those red lights. Or they're not quite red, they're sort of, reddish, yellowish. But so, to put this building up tight against that corner, that's going to be, it has potential to create more traffic accidents because you're cutting down the sight lines. It'll be the worst sight lines in that whole corner. And the third point, but not to beat it to a dead horse because I think Joe already covered it very well, was the highly vulnerable aquifer and the fact that the Conservation Authority only looked at whether there was going to be a septic system or not, and they basically sloughed it off to others to look at.
Thanks very much for your presentation, Mr. Downey. Appreciate it.
Hi, my name's Kathleen Doyle, and I live at 1800 Court. Hi, neighbors. Before we start, I'm not sure, Mayor, if you could perhaps help me with this. I wanted to ask if anyone here could read general notes and standard site plan development notes. If I could bring it forward for you to.
What are you hoping to see out of that? We have it electronically, and I can zoom in on an electronic copy. To know what it says?
No, I'm wanting to know why I was sent an completely indecipherable.
Okay. Let's get an answer from staff.
Vibrant, creative, Karen Pelham.
Mr. Glover, Ms.
General
Hannah?
note and
Okay.
standard site
Ms.
development.
Doyle, we're getting an answer for you.
Thank you, I'm sorry, sir.
The paper size is dictated by the format of the notices and also the cost of mailing. Full-size documents are available at the town hall at any time for residents to view, should they wish to see a larger format.
Thank you. And Mr. Glover, can you also speak to the site plan versus the reason why we're here tonight?
The site plan was submitted just for discussion purposes or information. There's no application for site plan at this time. So it was more of a flag or an information to say this is conceptually what the applicant's thinking of. But again, we don't have an application for that. So what we hoped by sending that, which we didn't have to send, but we hoped by sending that it would cause discussion, cause you to call into the planning department and say, can you please clarify this, or come in and see the full-size plan or on the internet, on the web. It was just for discussion purposes to provide more information to the public.
Thank you. Ms. Doyle?
I'm flattered that it didn't need to be sent to me. I would appreciate never again receiving from Pelham. If Pelham does decide to send me information, that it at least be legible. Whether it costs more to print front to back, or whether it should be just off with a note saying, call office for this information, I believe it's inappropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
I think if I might point out on the front, it does say need more information, contact us, and there's several and various ways to do that, but I do accept your point, so thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Do you have another to add to your submission?
Yeah, I understand that there is a requirement to submit complete packaging, but that hasn't been done.
Perhaps I don't know if you're referring to something, is that a document from the town that perhaps can give more clarity?
I have a note here, planning application.
Okay. Ms. Hannah, regarding I think the requirement for a complete application, is that what the question is? Ms. Hannah?
So in regards to a complete application, I believe what you are referring to is the site plan application, and planning staff have not received an application or any of the supporting documents that are required.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Ms. Doyle?
The aquifer. Mr. Dwyer? I believe, wasn't aware that there was an aquifer, maybe I'm wrong. But it's apparently a very large aquifer from what was said here. Very large. And I don't like that a gas station is being put on something that's going to affect an aquifer that affects all of us. And a question, if I could please, from the diagram, and I couldn't make it up to town hall to look at it, I can't see where people, do people enter and exit the gas bar only from Pelham Street?
Okay.
Or do they also enter and exit from Welland Road?
Mr. Glover, can you assist us, please?
Thank you. In terms of the aquifer, much of the Font Hill is under the aquifer. This is no different than other places, and through the applicant, he may not know specifically about the aquifer because it's not perhaps his expertise, but the consultants will know about it, and through this conversation, we'll have an explicit conversation with the Conservation Authority about this aquifer as well, to make sure that all safeguards are in place.
Thank you.
In terms of the access, the traffic, the site plan that was provided is conceptual. There's no firm determination of where the access points will be on the property until the site plan is put forward and it is approved. So right now, it's a conceptual design that we sent you so that for discussion purposes. So I don't have an answer for you on access. There likely will be 2 points of access though on either road though.
Thank you, Mr. Glover.
Just a little
Doyle?
bit more. There was an Avondale just up the road on Pelham South, went belly up. Several businesses went in there, went belly up. There was a gas station, Pelham Road. It went belly up. Video store moved in there. It went belly up. Eventually, the gas station was taken out, dug up, and residences, I believe single-unit residences, were put in there. I'm not sure why that wasn't kept zoned for what it was originally zoned for. Bear with me, if you would, please. A gateway to Pelham. I have read that this is going to be a gateway to Pelham, and I would request more clarification on that term. A gateway, I grew up in Toronto, and the gateway to the CNE was the Princess Gates or the Dufferin Gate. I've never been through a gateway that consisted of a Max Milk and a gas bar. Also, I think very few people heading up South Pelham towards Font Hill need a gateway to tell them that they're entering Font Hill, unless it's to let Wellanders know that they're entering foreign territory. Obviously, I'm a NIMBY, not in my backyard, but I believe it's justified when it's a gas station. I bought my property and it looked out at 2 fields. And I knew that eventually they'd be built over. And I assumed, I think with reason, that they would be residential. I understand that they've been rezoned commercial, and I accept that. I wish we could build low-cost housing. I wish we could build a medical center. I wish we could build office spaces. But I do not, and I'm sure none of you would want, a gas station built against your wishes right in your backyard. Last but not least, I understand that this is a proposal and that we've been given plenty of time to voice our opinions and objections. But I think what frightens me is when that statement was made, it wasn't followed by, we will take those objections and statements and concerns under advisement when we make our decision.
You mean at the beginning of the meeting, Ms. Doyle?
So my concern is this a fait accompli? Are we just here talking and there'll be another meeting where we talk and another meeting where we talk and more meetings when we talk, right up until the moment that we're filling our gas tanks in order to be able to drive?
So if I might, this was written out, so I'm going to reread it. And I'm sorry if we gave the wrong impression. It says, in closing, we stress at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment or official plan amendment, and therefore any comments received will be taken into account by council in their consideration. So the comments tonight will be taken into consideration by council and staff in looking at the application. And I believe, as Ms. Hannah indicated in her presentation, and you all have her contact information because it was included on here about have your say. For more information, please contact that, up to the point that it's formulated to council in some sort of report from staff to recommend one way or another, and then council will consider that. Up to that point, any comments will be taken into consideration.
Well,
So
thank you, Mayor.
that's still an opportunity to do so.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council. Please excuse me if I've been at all impolite or discourteous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We know that this is important to many people, and we appreciate the input that you're providing. Thank you, Ms. Doyle. Are there others that want to make a presentation? We've already heard from you, ma'am, so I'm going to ask the gentleman here who's, if you want to come forward. Yes. Thank you, sir. You weren't here at the beginning, so you didn't know that this is being recorded in video and will be posted on the website. So if that's a recording device, you don't necessarily need it, but you're welcome to use it. And I'd ask that you state your name and your address, and then you can address council. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm Jim McGregor, and I live at 1017 Pelham Street South. That's directly across from the site. I'll refer to it as the site as a verbal shorthand. Well within that 120-meter zone.
Thank you.
So thank you, Your Worship, Council, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to speak. I have my remarks written, and I have 5 major points. I will be brief. I'll give you the vocal executive summary. There is more here that you can read at your leisure, and I have other ideas and recommendations that are not in here. Any of you wish to contact me on council, I'm happy to discuss it with you. So I oppose the zoning changes, and I'll tell you why. And I hope to present new information. I got the information package on Friday, went through it. I hope not to duplicate what others have said. So my first idea is I've heard many people discuss many of the negatives. And I believe a way to view that as you're making your decision on the zoning bylaw amendment would be to use something from the business world that most of you are probably familiar with. It's called full cost accounting. So it's just what you think it might be. You take into account all the costs, all the positives as well, the positives and negatives. So for example, a quick example of full cost accounting and how it can reveal things that might otherwise go unnoticed or unvoiced or unconsidered would be, for example, a company that manufactures a nuclear power plant. Full cost accounting would take into account the cost of putting out the garbage, the nuclear waste that has a half-life of many millennia. You would factor that cost in to the cost of the power plant and then decide if it's suitable or not. It would also take into account unanticipated results. So for example, the plant could heat a church or a school, and the school may have a student that discovers a cure for Alzheimer's. That's an example of the power when you think in a full cost accounting way, and I would recommend that that may be a useful tool as you look at this and other zoning bylaw amendments. Not a new concept, but I'm just pointing it out to you as useful. So when you look at the full cost accounting and apply it to the site, I think it encapsulates a lot of the fears that residents have and some of the anger that I've heard, the fear and the anger from residents, and that's because of the uncertainty. So full cost accounting can reveal with some certainty, with probability or the possibility of things that might occur. So for example, there are going to be immediate, there's going to be short-term and long-term through a long time period, impacts on the residents, their families, the surrounding community. And those impacts, for example, are going to peak during the construction phase if this goes ahead. So all the things that you think would be there, the noise, the vibration, the dust, but full cost accounting would tell you that you're going to hear that piercing 102 decibel shriek of those heavy machinery as they back up. And the thing about that is that those are unanticipated. You don't know when it's going to come. It's not a regular thing like music, like the neighbor's music. These are impacts that come. They will come when you've planned a barbecue with the family. There'll be some new trespass across that lot line, both during construction and during the maintenance and running of that facility, that we would serve well to take into account. Shift workers are going to be impacted by this to a great extent, or the elderly, the infirm. And that fuel truck, as someone mentioned, it's going to pull up at 3 a.m. because after hours are the best for them, but not for residents. That diesel is going to idle, the pump generator is going to snarl up, and that process is going to continue for hours until tens of thousands of liters of fuel is delivered. Full cost accounting will show that that unwanted noise trespass is an economic negative that keeps on impacting. And they're not necessarily things that we would consider. So the point from this is, and this is my first point, is that to put that into a useful tool for decision making, the point is that the developer and their tenants are going to enjoy the rewards, and the residents are going to pay the costs. The developer gets all the positives, and we're paying the costs. That is not a fair process. I know that's life. However, I've done a fair amount of research and read through many of the town's planning documents, which are excellent. I'm very impressed with them. The community plan, the community improvement plan, and the strategic plan. In particular, that one-page summary is a useful tool, and in it, it states, it highlights that there should be a fair process in the town of Pelham. And I know that you will be fair as you decide this. I'm just highlighting it and pointing it out that is a valid thing that you can consider and should consider. So please vote no to those zoning bylaw amendments. My second point is the hydrology, aquifer recharge, and stormwater routing. Say that fast 10 times. I think I have something unique to offer about the aquifer. It's been mentioned earlier. I was born in Pelham, well in General Hospital, but I grew up on Haste Road, and as kids, all through my early teens and through my teens, we rode our bikes and later our dirt bikes all through the 700 acres of the Wellington Nursery. You may know it as the Fawn Hill Nursery. Huge area, from Haste Road over to South Pelham, on the north Pancake Lane, all the way down to Welland Road and beyond. We rode through that area, so I've seen that aquifer particularly and the changes that have happened to it over time. So that's like a 40-year time span. The reason I noticed it is that as a kid, we found a beautiful swimming hole. It was a secret little place. It was in the bush behind what's now the Lutheran Church. It's now gone. But at that time, in the, I guess it would be the mid-60s, it was deep enough to swim in July. So that whole area, as I understand it, is an aquifer recharge area connected with the Fonthill glacial came and the delta that it created when the glacier melted. Now, the function, I think it's important to know, of that aquifer, it's not just a recharge area, but it's a natural area that manages the stormwater. It gathers it and naturally disposes of it through time. That's the function of a wetland and an aquifer. It channels the water at no cost to us. It's a natural process, but it needs time and it needs space. What I want to offer to you is that over the time I mentioned, several decades, that aquifer has shrunk. And I'm not surprised that the Niagara Conservation Authority, got the name right, but you know who I mean, offered no problem, essentially, with the water. Well, no fault of theirs. Of course they would, because I don't think they have institutional knowledge of the function of that aquifer over time and of its shrinking and diminishing. So the first time I noticed it was when the seniors' house or residence, the Woodlands at 980 Pelham Street, just across the border in Welland, went in. That was built on a wetland. We call it a swamp. That reduced the aquifer, that reduced the wetland, that reduced the natural ability to manage that stormwater. As the subdivisions were built, more water started to accumulate, and it wasn't being recycled as it naturally should be. To the point now, if you go to that site, you'll see that there's pooling of water. There's a depression, and you look at it, it's very obvious that that's an aquifer and that the water's going down. And, well, it's not going down, is my point. So if that site is paved over, guess what? That water is likely going to intrude into basements surrounding, including mine. The sump pump does some, but it'll soon be overwhelmed. And one of the unintended things is, you know, almost every fuel tank in Ontario leaks or will leak to some extent. Imagine gasoline and diesel fuel mixed into that storm water coming into houses. You'll have to condemn them, and it's a losing game. So that aquifer, the point is that it has immense value, and full cost accounting reveals that to us in a very vivid way to consider in your decision making. This is for the public good, for everyone, at very little to no cost. There is an opportunity cost, of course, and that's not building the development.
Mr. McGregor, you've already spoken for 10 minutes. We want to make sure that there may be other neighbors that would like to present. And I would ask if you can, we want to hear the other 3 points, but you already have them written, so you'll submit those after.
Sure.
But if you can go through those other 3 points a little bit quicker than the first 2, thank you.
Yes, I will very quickly. Okay, so so we've talked about the developer getting the rewards and the residents paying the cost. We've talked about the function of the aquifer. My other major point, others have mentioned it, is the Southern Gateway. However, I have something unique to offer you. My front window is on South Pelham. I did a study, and I estimate between 70 and 100,000 cars a week pass by that site. A week. That's a valuable property to market the town of Pelham for a positive image and to communicate. And the point is that if that site was used as a welcome center, the point is to engage people. It could be staffed, it could be a self-serve kiosk. The I Love Pelham campaign came about by my brother, who saw a need. People were stopping in, asking, where's this, where's that, where's the apple farm, that type of thing. There's an insatiable demand and desire to have information about Pelham, and that site is the perfect area. The other point is that the developer, I visited their website. They do one type of development, oil change, gas fueling, strip malls. That's a cultural dead end. That's a technical dead end. The whole world is moving to electric cars, electric vehicles, or electric pickup trucks now that far trump any internal combustion engine. And the world is moving to online shopping. No need, less need for strip malls. So please consider that this development, in my considered opinion, is not what the community needs. Others have spoken that it is a duplication. I'm suggesting it's a cultural dead end, and it is because of the opportunity cost and not putting the visitor center, and it's a technical dead end. That should be obvious to all who think about it. I think that pretty much summarizes it. Thank you, Your Worship, the council, and ladies and gentlemen, for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. McGregor. And I would ask that you submit that either tonight or shortly.
Yes.
You can give it to the clerk here tonight, and we'll include it, or I noticed you were making notes on it. You may want to amend it, but please send that in.
Yes.
Okay? Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We want your submission. Thank you very much. And I do note there were a few that arrived a little bit late, and you probably didn't hear that we do have a sign-up sheet here, and we would ask all who want to be notified or informed of progress on this to sign up on that sheet. So as you go out, if you didn't sign up already, please do so. Are there any others? I think the couple in the, I'm sorry, sir in the back, and then do you in the front row, you want to present something? Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Council. My name is Tom Hanrahan. I live at 6 Michaela Crescent. So from my perspective, this proposed development is going to have a huge impact. My backyard abuts right on the proposed development. My backyard abuts right on the proposed development. So obviously this is very immediate and very important to my family and I. I'll try not to repeat the comments that have been made already, and some of them are the same things I was going to say. This falls in your lap as council. There's an OP designation, urban commercial, and these are permitted uses. The proposed uses are permitted uses under a bylaw amendment, or excuse me, zoning bylaw amendment. So it's up to you as council to mitigate the effect of this development. That means screening. That means a landscape plan. That means a lighting plan. That means these things done now, not at some later date. There's been a lot of vague allusions to things being done. Well, we're not quite sure. It'll be done at the site plan stage. Couche-Tard has done this research, and we're relying on it. You have to see that. You're the ones making the decision. I think everyone here is realistic in that we know something is going in there. To be compatible with the neighborhood, and we want it to live up to what the strategic plan of this town says. Talks about small town feel, talks about quality of life. And those have to be more than simply phrases that we put out there. And when you're driving up Pelham Road, and the first thing you see coming into the town is a 5-bay gas station, a strip mall, and a 24/7 Max Milk, that doesn't, to me, or I think anyone in this room, have anything to do with small town values or quality of life. So I would just say that the types of things that have been mentioned tonight by other speakers and by myself have to be before you now to make that decision, not at some later date. You have to know what the landscape is going to be. You have to know what the lighting is going to be. All of those things should be in front of you before any decision is made. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hanrahan.
My name's Renee McDonald. I own 1011 South Pelham, or Pelham Street South, and 1001. So we own the 2 parcels of land that are right across from the proposed site. My biggest concern is traffic and our kids. We had to go through the busing to get all the busing changed because of our kids. That road is so busy that they can't manage the busing system, and to add more traffic to it is just outrageous. I mean, I get we need something, but it's also something that my kids have to look at. I pick up so much garbage out of my front yard from the street already. You're going to put a site that's going to consume more garbage, and it's going to go all over my yard. And I'm the one that's got to pick up everything down South Pelham. So it's a concern of mine because there's already so much. And we've had a lot of kids will come by South Pelham and they'll check your cars. They're going through all your cars. I get it's everywhere, but you're increasing it more with a 24-hour service place that's going to have a lot more activity there. I'm just concerned for the safety of my kids and the well-being of the city and the town. It's a big, busing is a big, big issue that I think that maybe a lot of you don't know about, but the kids in the bus are just, it's bad. At least every week, cars pass the buses. And they wanted my kids to cross South Pelham. I refused because so many cars just fly. They don't even notice. They don't care. They just see the lights. So now you're going to add a gas station. They're going to see a gas station. They don't pay attention. They don't see. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. McDonald. Are there others that would like to present? Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Soyoung Kim. I live in 24 Michaela, and a couple of the gentlemen ahead of me talks about the full cost accounting, and actually I'm a professor at Brock. I teach accounting.
Okay.
Yeah. So I teach something like full cost accounting. At the beginning of each class, at September or January, I talk about the types of entities in my very first class. At that time, I talked about two types of entities in this world. The one is for-profit, and another one is not-for-profit. For-profit organizations, we call them business entities. They exist to make profit. So I totally understand the developer's point of view. He spent a lot of money. I don't know how much money he spent, but pretty much money, a lot of money he spent. So he is already wasted at least 1 year, as far as I know. So he's losing money every day. So if I were him, it will be a lot of nightmare every night. But he is trying to propose these things, not for the benefit of Thornhill, but for the benefit of his own shareholders or some other wealthy investors. But here, the resident of Thornhill, now we are owners of these towns. Okay, Islanders. The another type of entity we call not-for-profit entities. Good example is Brock universities and all the municipal corporations like Town of Pelham's. So Town of Pelham exists for the benefit of the residents of Thornhill. After hearing all these comments, if you believe this proposal is really for the benefit of Thornhill, please say yes. After you hear all these comments, if you believe this proposal is for the benefit of Thornhill residents, please say yes. But before you sign, I want you to put your hand to your heart and think one more time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kim. Are there others that would like to present? I do note that there's a couple that want to present second time, and if they do so, I'd ask them to be very, very quick. Any others for first time? Okay. In the front row first, and then Mr. Sorry, I'm trying to get everybody's names here.
It's Natalie Duduch again.
Thank you.
Actually, it's a follow-up to my original submission. So granted, there is no need for a market study. However, I would like to point out what has been pointed out to us, that there have been a lot of serious thoughts put into development, commercial development in this area. And I'd like to point out at least 3 of them. One, in the provincial policy statement of 2014, policy 1.13.2 indicates that land use patterns within settlement areas that we're talking about here shall be based on densities and a mix of land uses which efficiently use land. We've now heard lots of questions about this efficiency and resources, and are appropriate for and efficiently use the infrastructure and public service facilities which are planned or available. That's one point. In the Regional Office Plan of August 2014, we have policy 4C51, which notes that designated greenfield areas will be planned, et cetera, and will make a significant contribution to the growth of the respective urban area as a complete community. Perhaps this last gentleman spoke to this most eloquently. And finally, our own town's official plan in 2014, where we have here policy B 1.44 talks about, prior to considering an application for a zoning bylaw amendment and or site plan approval, council shall be satisfied that, and I'm just going to state one point here, it's the second bullet, where highway commercial uses are proposed at the entrance points to Fonthill urban areas, such uses are designed to provide or maintain a desirable gateway to the community. Well, it begs the question, what is in fact desirable, and who's going to define it if not us? I think you've heard mostly the opinions here that it is not desirable, this proposed development, and I think that's the most important thing. And lastly, four times I have here, I've noted that there were negative rulings on the issue of having a gas station in this area. October 12th of 1988, the town. September 5, 1990, the town. February 28, 1992, the OMB. And February 2001, the town yet again. So it seems we have had this discussion enough times, and we have refuted the need to have a gas station on top of all the other state concerns, and I thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Ms. Dyduke. And Mr. Panici, very quickly, sir.
I won't be very long, just a couple of quick notes that I just was sort of making here. Fonthill, I'm reading some history about Fonthill and the Niagara region and so on. Fonthill means fountain in the hill. And it was noted by settlers in the early years that there were points along in Fonthill where water was just flowing out of the ground very freely. Back to the aquifer part again, before I even just talk about that just very quickly, there is a significant surface drainage, approximately 500 meters to the west of the subject parcel that drains in the back by Harold Black Park, so on. And that obviously has to be forming part of the aquifer at some point, I'm assuming. Something to take into consideration regarding the gas station site itself. The aquifer is also part of a larger formation that runs from here all the way to Pennsylvania, or Pennsylvania to here. And in recent oil and gas articles that have been presented, indicated that a lot of the fracking that's going on in Pennsylvania, you've heard about the issues they've had with water wells in Pennsylvania, actually could affect Niagara region because of the same formation. What I'm trying to illustrate with that is the fact that the aquifer is very freely flowing, so anything that impacts on this site could impact the remainder of the aquifer. The last thing I just want to note very quickly, or second last thing I want to note, is that the traffic on Welland is quite heavy and it's fast, and I phone the NRP on a regular basis asking them to have some kind of speed control put on there, some patrol officers to check the street because of the speed of the traffic going by. The last thing I just want to ask is I heard a couple times about highway commercial, that the area was designated for highway commercial. Is that correct? The official plan?
Thank you for the question. Ms. Hannah?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the designation is urban highway commercial and greenfield overlay on this property at the present time.
Thank you. in my email that I had sent to yourself, Mayor Dave, and the councillors, I also copied Brian Batty, I think his name is. He's a regional councillor. And he responded kindly and said, this is not a regional road. I don't really have any issues with it other than just being a citizen. My question is, it's not a highway. Why are we calling it highway commercial? It's Pelham Street. It's not a highway. It's not even a regional road. So I'm not sure where that comes from. Thank you very much for
Perhaps
allowing
that
those
can be
extra
answered as
comments.
the report comes forward. Thank you again, Mr. Panici, for your presentation. I see another that would like to present, Ms. Fagan. If you could remind us of your address, please.
Thank you. I am Patty Fagan. I live at 104 Woodside Square. I am also the owner of the Cafe on Main on Pelham Street in the downtown core. So I wear two hats tonight. I came tonight, first of all, to be an observer and to listen and to support some of my neighbors, and some of these people are my customers. As I listened to some of the submissions and the concerns and questions tonight, I felt compelled to speak, so thank you for the opportunity. There's a few points that I'd like to make, and they are in no particular order. I was just very quickly jotting some notes. So first of all, I'd like to see something very different for a gateway to Fonthill. Not a gas station, not a strip mall. If council has already committed to this developer that there is going to be something along that line, then don't give us a 24-hour gas station. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. We have, as one of the other speakers said earlier tonight, within 5 minutes, she was at 5 different gas stations. It just doesn't make any sense. If there is going to be a gas station there, then don't put it 24 hours. Don't allow this. You're destroying a neighborhood. You're going to absolutely destroy a neighborhood. And you're going to destroy the feel and the look of people coming in to Pelham. There's people coming in and traveling more and more through the whole South Niagara. So, or the South Coast Niagara from Port Colborne. You've got cyclists. We're trying to create a community here that is encouraging walking and cycling and healthy outdoor living, not a strip mall. And also, I didn't do the research to get the exact part in the official plan, but it's been brought to my attention that when council and administration considers something, that there is a part in the official plan that is sort of asks the question, again, I'm only just sort of paraphrasing, that the plans would be approved and there must be consideration to preserve and enhance the downtown core. Have any of you come out of town hall and taken a walk downtown lately? That brings me to the other point. I was at one point a director with the Pelham Business Association when the East Fonthill lands were coming forward. There was a lot of concern about the size of the square footage for the different units. We sat down with the Pelham Business Association, a couple of councillors, and myself and a few other directors on the PBA, and we sat down at a meeting. And council took that information, and there is now a minimum requirement, I believe it's around 3,000 square feet, which is going to help the smaller units that are available in the downtown, so the downtown core. So that goes directly back to our official plan, where there is, yes, there's development, but it's not going to be at the cost of leaching more business and more customers out of the downtown core. Same consideration needs to be done here. How is this going to impact the downtown core? The quality of life for the people that live in this area, and even though I'm out of 120 meters, thank goodness, one of my very good customers who happens to live on Michaela brought this to my attention, and I rearranged my schedule to be here because I felt it was that important. because this is my neighborhood. This aquifer needs to be protected at all costs. How far are we going to keep pushing the environmental envelope until it's gone? There was a big fight, I believe, a number of years back to protect the Fonthill cane. There's a lot of time and effort into protecting the comfort maple. Fonthill is the aquifer. There, it's, you know, as was said earlier, this aquifer has a far-reaching effect. It has to be protected at all costs, and a gas station is not my way of protecting an aquifer. Going back to the point of my neighborhood, the traffic, the kids in school buses. The traffic's getting faster, is fast and getting faster. It is increasing. I have lived on Woodside Square since 2003. I have lived in Pelham since 1986, on Pelham Street. I've seen the traffic increase. And it's leaving town. There isn't money staying here. Not the way it should be. You have your pollution goes beyond the aquifer. It goes into sounds and the site pollution. With a 24-hour gas bar, a gas bar of that size, it just does not fit. It's like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. It's not for that spot. And one of my last comments, I'm going to wear my business owner's hat. I've lived in this town for a long time, and I've chosen to do business here. I have customers who are upset, angry, emotional about, some of them are very upset about the East Fonthill lands. And they walk down the street. Some people are living close enough that they walk to my business. And they say, you know how many empty stores I passed? And I've only walked from Highway 20 over here. What's going on? Why are, you know, council and administration allowing all of these plans to be put in place? It's leaching out of the downtown and out of the small town feel. At first, when East Fonthill was being put into place, I was very excited. People spoke to me, asked my opinion, whether it be my customers or any councillors that I've had the privilege of some very good conversations with. And I was very, very excited. And I felt it was good for the overall health and benefit of the downtown, and it seemed to be a good fit. It was Highway 20. That is a highway. Pelham Street's not a highway. Now, as things are developing, we've got this coming up, the proposal for this. Now I'm getting very nervous. We're losing our small town feel. I choose to live in Fonthill. I choose to do my business in Fonthill. If I wanted to live in a community like Brampton with strip mall after strip mall, then that's where I would live. I have people, my customers, telling me that they're considering leaving the community. They don't like what's happening. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Fagan. You started your presentation, and you did arrive late as well. So you started the presentation saying you don't know what promises council has made. Council hasn't made any promises. This is an open meeting. We're hearing from all sides. So I just wanted to kind of say that, and I did read that in the beginning, and I read it again. So the only thing that the developer would be going on would be what has already been approved through public process, through official plan and all of that, and they're looking to change that. So that's the only thing that's been assured. So thank you. Are there any other input? Okay, I'm going to thank you very much for members of the public for your input this evening. We greatly appreciate it, and it helps council, and it will help council in its deliberations. Now is the time, actually, for council to provide some input and ask questions, etc. If there's something that they want to see, etc., in the report, and I wonder if any members of council have any input in addition to what we've already heard, the excellent input from members of the public. Councillor Ribbiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it was mentioned a number of times by people who submitted their comments, but I think Mr. Hanrahan said it best and most succinctly. I think we need to see in front of us a pretty good vision of what it is that the developer is proposing for us to consider what we ought to do around a zoning change. In fact, I think that for this to be something to consider very seriously, we would want to see, I think, a vision of something really different, exciting, something that takes care of the issues effectively, probably something considerably different than what we normally see in terms of a gas station. And if such a vision isn't possible, then it's probably going to be very difficult, at least for myself, to think of it positively. So I want to see a good, solid rendering of where it is that Max thinks they're going with this gas station, so that it is in fact appropriate for the setting that's being proposed. That's my offer.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Councillor Durley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All of the points that were given, I've made some notes about all of them. They're all very valid points. I'm looking to staff who will be coming back with a recommendation. What we need to do is to make all efforts to preserve the character of the neighborhood as the new development comes in. I think this is very important, and I'm going to be looking for keys to that as the report comes through. Certainly, I echo some of the concerns and actually said some of the concerns before they were brought forward. Looking forward to the recommendation and really seriously knowing that staff is going to give consideration to everything that was said tonight. And again, the key is to preserve the friendly neighborhood, friendly character of the neighborhood, and that's, to me, essential. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Durley. Others? Councillor Papp?
We, as councillors, sometimes have to act like King Solomon and balance what is in the best interests of our community. We have listened, and you have offered, some of you have said it quite eloquently, about the fact that we're not opposed to development as long as it's consistent with the nature and the culture of what we want to see happen in our neighborhood. Along those lines, I live not far from there, and I've lived in this community for over 35 years, and you're right, I take my best friend for a walk 4 times a day down that area. I have concerns about the traffic as it exists now, and just what I see happens day in, day out. Speed, failure to observe even basic stop signs. Along with that, I want to see one of the things we all talked about as a gateway. We have basically 3 entrances into Pelham. 1, 2 of them come in from Highway 20, and there's a gas station there. The other one comes in from, I got to get my bearings straight, anyhow, from the east. And we are attempting there with our East Fonthill, as the mayor and many of us know, is to establish what we think is a recognition point for where you are entering Pelham. And these were the same thoughts that I had echoed, and I know I say for my colleagues along South Pelham. Notwithstanding that, I think we need to see much more articulated plans and site plans. And finally, I do want to offer this. You are correct. There are a number of gas stations located in the area, and I have done some, you want to call it impartial discussions with owners of gas stations within the immediate. One of the concerns brought to my attention was, and I will not divulge, is that in some instances, one of these 24-hour areas is actually going to shut down. There's not enough business. In fact, competition is pretty tough. But that's a decision they have to make based on what flows there are. In the end, I concur with my colleagues, and as with Councillor Durley, we will look to staff to take all those comments into consideration, to bring back to us with a recommendation. And you're right, it is a decision we make, and we take it very seriously. And we have been, as Mr. Mayor, we have been in that situation before. And the last thing is, and Patty mentioned, is to hurt. the integrity and what we're trying to do. If in fact it can be balanced and it can be reshaped, that it demonstrates that there is an ability, and I say this to the developer, that you have to be able to sustain it. Work closely with a number of my colleagues in other areas, commercial, and it's true, there is a lot of vacancies. It's tough right now filling businesses. It's nobody's fault. It's just the way the economy's going right now. And the last thing is, one of my good friends who's in the development business, and the mayor's heard me say, the last thing you want to see is empty windows. You don't want to see that. But the same token, if there's things that can be done on that side from a development standpoint, and I was pleased, let's say the least, with the residential component, withdrawal of that, to see that there's some honest effort being made. And I take also and understand from the investor standpoint, you put money in, you want to make money, and you're right, Professor, you want to make money back. You have to make it back. You don't do it to lose money. So that being said, I trust that we will come back with a report along with, and I know the mayor will restate this as well, we need to get as much information, as much of this on the table so that we can come to some rational, realistic, relevant, and compatible to what we have stated in our strategic plan is creative, caring, and a community that we think we can be very proud of, and one that anybody that drives in from any of those three entry points will know that they're in the community of Pelham, Fonthill, Fenwick. So I'll leave it at that, and as always, like I said, as Solomon, we have to balance these things, and they are very difficult, but I know we'll do what was in the best interests of the community. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other members of council? No? Yes? Councillor Kersey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question just for clarity, and I think I've got it right, but I'd like to get a bit of clarity, if I may, through you, to our planner. Under our current OP, it's zoned highway commercial, which affords the developer the opportunity to put a gas station there, as well as any of the other designations that are within the highway commercial designation. The stumbling block that we're faced with at the present moment is the zoning, among other things. If the developer were to decide to shelve his proposal and sit back and wait until a comprehensive zoning bylaw is completed,
right,
it's quite likely that that comprehensive zoning bylaw it's mandated that that comprehensive zoning bylaw will support the highway commercial designation. Is that correct?
Mr. Glover?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's absolutely correct. The official plan designation of highway commercial supports the gas station. So the applicant applying for that at this point in time is in conformity with the official plan. So it's something that use, we're not talking about the development now, we're talking about that use.
Yeah.
That use would be supported through the official plan. Now, if we wait, the applicant waits, and the town does a comprehensive zoning bylaw, which we are initiated now, we hope to have done before the end of this year.
Yeah.
The entire town is looked at to come into conformity with the official plan. And on this specific property, then we would expect that this zoning would come into conformity, which would allow a gas bar.
So as a follow-up, Mr. Glover, what we have here is an opportunity with a willing partner in the developer to try to make the most of a difficult situation that we find ourselves in, vis-a-vis his willingness to put in a residential component. And our biggest and our strongest tool at this point in time is the site plan process. Am I correct in those statements?
Mr. Glover?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the planning department has worked over a year with the developer to try to come up with a solution for a development that meets the requirements of the official plan, is in conformity with the requirements of the official plan, and also mitigates the issues that were discussed from the residents. The applicant has put forward what he believes to be that solution. Through the comments this evening, there are some fine-tuning or perfections, I guess, we can do to that application to make it more palatable, make it more robust, I guess. After this meeting, I'm going to suggest to the applicant that he submit his site plan approval before council, so that when we bring this back, council can look at the site plan make a decision, council look at the use, make a decision, all knowing that it should be in conformity with the official plan. However, the site plan will have the details that everybody's looking for, I think. If I may.
Mr. Glover?
The site plan process will be connected. However, it should be known that the site plan process is not a public process. It's council looking after the best interest of the town, and council makes that decisions.
Thank you.
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor, I'm very pleased to hear you take that position, because I was going to put that forward, that the developer continue to work with us in a positive way and bring forward his site plan at the same time as the recommendation report come forward, so that this council can then have all the information that they have to, or that they need to protect the interests of the residents. I understand the concerns. I've noted everything that's here, and I would have the similar concerns if I were living in that neighborhood. But I think there are ways of mitigating that and still ending up with a development that everyone can live with. The unknown is always fearful. The less unknowns that we bring to the table, the less fearful that we can approach our decision on this matter. So hopefully we'll pursue that. I know it's an unusual step, not normally followed, but perhaps our developer will continue to work with us in a positive vein and take that step. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any others? Thank you, members of council, members of the community, developer, staff. Very informative meeting. Lots of feedback that will be considered, as we heard. And as we also heard, a decision has not been made on this, and we are working within the parameters of what has already been approved through public process. This will all be considered in a report that comes to council for consideration. And as you heard as well, council takes this very, very seriously, and we appreciate your input, and we will consider it as we move forward. So once again, thank you very much. We do have some just final items here, and this is to receive your comments officially, your letters, etc. As we receive them, they brought forward to this. So the first is the report. It's been moved by Councillor Papp that the Committee of the Whole receives the issue summary report for information as it pertains to application file AM 0713 and OP AM 315 regarding 1022 Pelham Street, and further that committee direct planning staff to prepare a recommendation report on this topic for committee's consideration. Any other comments on that? And that's within taking into consideration all of the input that we've received. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. It's been moved by Councillor Ribbiak that the correspondence received at the public meeting held today regarding application file AM 0713 and OP AM 0315 regarding 1022 Pelham Street as follows. I might have some difficulty with some of your names, and I apologize. G. Baradelli, M and H Downey, L Langerat, D Whitehead, M Jesu and T Hannaran, J Bishop, K Doyle, M and B Olisco, M Sipuk, G Panici, T J Crothers, G and C Hybers, the City of Welland, E Suter, and J and E, I'm sorry, yes, J and E Sheru. Sheru? Sure. Any comments, questions on those? I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. And we are expecting other submissions from Mr. McGregor and any others that want to submit them, so thank you very much. And it's been moved by Councillor Papp that this meeting of the Committee of the Whole be adjourned until the next regular meeting scheduled for Monday, April 20th, 2015, unless sooner called by the Mayor. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thanks again for your input. This meeting is adjourned.